Good morning. I'd like to call this meeting of the Modesto Irrigation District Board of Directors to order. Angela, will you please take the roll?
Yes. Director Mensinger,
Here.
Director Gilman,
Here.
Director Campbell,
Here.
the quorum is present.
We will now convene into closed session for the item listed on the agenda. Good morning. We are back in open session. We have no announcements from open session. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Angela, please read the announcement.
The Board of Directors welcomes participation in meetings. The public is welcome to comment on matters appearing on the agenda at the time they are called. The public may also comment on matters which are not on the agenda when the president calls for public input for the good of the district. This time is provided for the public to introduce any topic within the district's jurisdiction. Because these are non-agenda matters, generally no discussion or comment by the board should be expected except to properly refer the matter for review as appropriate, but no action will be taken at this meeting. All consent items are approved by a single action. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless they are removed for separate discussion and action at the request of the director or member of the public. If you wish to have an item removed, please do so after the president calls for consideration. Public comment will be limited to 5 minutes per speaker. We ask that you state your name and address for the record, but you're not required by law to do so. If you wish to comment, you may do so one of two ways. If you have joined this meeting via webinar, please click on the raise hand function and wait until your name or other identifying information is called. If you have joined this meeting via telephone, please press *9 and wait until the last 3 digits of your phone number is called. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next item on the agenda are the consent items. And item 3, which is warrants, item 4, which is wires, and item 5, which are disbursements, are being taken off the consent agenda. And we won't consider those today because I have a conflict of interest with those items, as I've disclosed at previous meetings, and there are only 3 of us here today, so we don't have a board majority to make it happen. So hopefully it'll happen at our next board meeting. So we're going to consider minutes, appointment of retirement committee member, and amended and restated Modesto Irrigation District retirement plans on the consent agenda. So does anyone in the audience have any comments on the consent items? Does anyone in internet land have a comment?
There are no hands raised.
So I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes, appointment of retirement committee member, and amended and restated Modesto Irrigation District retirement plans on the consent agenda.
So moved.
So moved. I'll second.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Can we take a roll call vote, please, Angela?
Yes, Director Mensinger,
Yes,
Director Gilman,
Yes.
and Director Campbell.
Yes.
Motion passes.
thank you. So now public input for the good of the district.
Thank you, Director. This week it's on. Emerson Drake, longtime living here in Modesto. A couple things, as usual, public record requests are kind of difficult to get sometimes from MID, and it was unfortunate that one of the most interesting documents from about 12 years ago is no longer with us. And that's the explanation of how Martino Graphics spent your money and mine as a subterfuge to try to change public opinion and to promote the sale of our water. But there's been due diligence. I'll accept that. There's no option. I just find it extremely unfortunate that something that was handed over to Garth Stapley, the copy of it managed to magically disappear, or we forgot, but that's okay. I'm concerned today about is that the inside of your new home? The fact that we've got some issues here, that you pulled it off the agenda. I was looking for item number 5. I wanted some explanation, but I guess that's going to have to wait. I mean, you're not going to answer questions about it.
Well, you can talk about it if you wish, and certainly it will come up at the next meeting and you'll be able to comment and question it at that time.
It's off the payment register. That was item number 5. The items 133949. I think it's PO 322510. It's for $126,841.42. I'm curious to see the breakdown. It's the billing for the legal advice. I'd like to, I'm interested in, just rather than seeing one big number, how that actually goes into, how they generate that dollar, what it's from, the breakdown of the PO. It doesn't appear, things have changed a little bit from the past, where there were multiple POs on some of these items and you could figure out what was going on. And this, right now, you can't. So I'm just curious. I'll put in a public record request when I get home today. Because we're not going to, again, you're not going to answer any questions today, but that's sad. The other thing is, sometimes politics can bring joy to your life in a way, at least get a chuckle out of you. And I think that's what happened when some of us read the Modesto B Editorials Board's recommendations and endorsements. I think they took a page out of, the line, the one I like the most is remaining silent and ignoring the lie emboldens the liar. The other one I like, that they seem to be really, ignore the facts and have faith. That doesn't work real well in politics or in life. I'm not going to go into religion. That's a nice, good dreams, good hopes. But when you try to sway people to make poor decisions, that's another ball of wax altogether. 12 years ago, when the Modesto Irrigation Board was looking to sell our water to San Francisco, Judy Slide, then the head of the editorial board, wrote an editorial, and it said that she was supporting the water sale. I found that kind of interesting. What I found more interesting is she parlayed that apparently into a job with the county clerk's election division. She's been there ever since. I'm not saying it's quid pro quo, but the Chamber of Commerce and the Rotary can do wonderful things for people sometimes in a Republican-dominated political environment. But we have greater issues now. We have issues where we made promises to the people. I was hoping today we were going to have a hearing about the new rates that'll be coming up. From what I followed 2 meetings ago, I don't think you're going to be able to sustain the rates that we have now. And I would think before an election would be the right time to at least open up that conversation. In November of 2016, you had a staff report that said the MID subsidizes industry to a greater degree than anyone else in Central California. Nothing has changed there. But whose back is it on? The residents. And no one seems to care. The editorial board suggests that it's the city boys that'll make a difference. Well, no offense to anybody, but the city boys have been in charge of MID for the last 5 years. And all we've gotten is more of the same. And it's funny because Garth Stapley himself wrote the articles about the money that we're spending for Gallo and those. I love to watch the clock more than I do. Anyway, I'll wrap it up so I don't have to be told. If you believe what you read there, then you're going to want to enjoy Alice in Wonderland because they definitely went down the rabbit hole. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Drake.
Emerson, quickly, what was that document number you mentioned?
133949. That's off the payment register.
Okay.
Number 5 and 5.
Thank you.
So do we have any other matters for the good of the community? And do we have anyone on the internet that wants to comment? Thank you. So next we have Gordon Enos and the water supply report.
The light's on. Oh, there he goes. Okay, thanks, Wes. All right, good morning, President Menzinger and members of the board. I'm Gordon Enos of Water Operations. And it's great to be back for the first water supply report of the new water year. And I wish I was the bearer of good news, but unfortunately, we're still in the throes of a prolonged drought. And as this first graphic demonstrates, the dark red colors depict only about 5 to 25% of average precipitation has fallen during the month of October over most of California. The purple and green shading in Southern California represent above normal precipitation, but that's been mainly due to some monsoonal moisture and tropical storms that have come up from Mexico and hit the southern portion of California. Getting a little closer to home, even though we saw a tiny amount of precipitation this past weekend, the San Joaquin Valley Precipitation Index for the whole San Joaquin River Basin on average has seen very little rain since October 1st, if any, as shown in the lower left of the graphic. The Tuolumne River watershed has fared a little better. We've received about 1.7 inches since July 1st. But all these indices, however, are below normal for this time of year, with normal being about 2 inches for the Tuolumne River and about not quite 1 inch for the city of Modesto. In looking at reservoir storage throughout California, most of the major reservoirs are well below their historical averages. And even our own Don Pedro Reservoir is about half full at about 75% of its historical average. We are currently holding steady at just over 1 million acre feet at elevation 729.6 feet. As far as MID's portion of reservoir storage, Modesto Reservoir is currently at elevation 23.4 feet with about 22,177 acre feet. And our share of Don Pedro is 148,593 acre feet for a total storage of 170,770 acre feet. With regard to Don Pedro lake levels at 729 feet, as shown on the blue shaded area, we are about 72 feet below our flood control reservation, which is shown on the black line. And so we have still plenty of space available. And hopefully that space will be filled up this coming winter. Looking out over the next 16 days, both the 8-day forecast and on the top graphic and the 16-day forecast on the bottom graphic are calling for drier conditions in our region for the next 2 weeks. Going out even further, the long-term regional climate models are predicting normal precipitation, which is in the left graphic, and warmer than normal temperatures, which is on the right graphic, over the next 3 months. In the meantime, staff is tracking the following efforts. Our cloud seeding program will begin on November 1st, and the airplane used to conduct operations is scheduled to arrive in Modesto this weekend. The Tuolumne River counting weir was installed last month, and as of Sunday, we've had 22 adult Chinook salmon have passed through the weir on the way to the spawning grounds. And this is the first group of salmon that have come up the river, and it's largely part because the past week or so and continuing to next week, we've been participating in a coordinated pulse flow along the Tuolumne, Stanislaus, and Merced rivers. Finally, I want to express my appreciation for the outstanding effort made by our irrigation field services staff this past irrigation season in responding to customer requests on the whole for a whole slew of issues. They worked through all the operational constraints that are unique to a very dry year, and also they kept our aging water conveyance system operational for another season. I want to thank them for that. Anyway, that's all I had, but I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have.
And do any board members have questions for Gordon? So I guess you can keep standing there, Gordon, but Ryan Reese is going to join you.
Great. Yeah, so as Director Mensinger said, this morning we have the privilege of having Ryan Reese. Ryan's the administrator of the Don Pedro Recreation Agency up in Don Pedro, and he's going to be giving an update on the Recreation Agency as well as the strategic planning. So I'll turn it over to Ryan.
Thank you, Gordon. Thank you, directors. Today we're here to talk about some updates going on at Don Pedro Recreation Agency, a few of the highlights that we have going on, and as well as any other questions the board and public may have. So the first one here is Don Pedro Recreation Agency is currently going through a strategic planning process. We haven't done one since 2006. Many of the district's involvement with the focus groups have already been conducted, and we've gone through some staff meetings as well as a customer engagement survey. And at the current stage, you can see here we're refining our recommendations with input from the district's customers and border control. And then we'll come back in December and take a look at actually building the plan. Here we have some insights from our customer survey. On the top left there, you'll see that location actually ended at number 3, which was a surprise to most of us on why people love Don Pedro. And then down in the bottom right, you'll see that our customers are really return customers. Some of them have even been coming for more than 20 years. Key observations here are camping is changing these days. One of the things you can see the top left is how big the RVs have gotten over the last 50 years. Our current facilities are at 30 amp services, where most of them nowadays need 50 amp services. That little device you see there is an adapter so that people can bring their 50 amp RVs and plug into our 30 amp service and draw more power by using some of the 120 outlets. The middle picture there is to show actually current restroom. We received a lot of feedback on people wanting to come back because of how clean our restrooms are. And then on the bottom, you can see the staff were also a big reason people return back to Don Pedro. Over on the right, as part of our survey, we asked our customers, where do you pay your utilities bills? And we found that 10% of our customers come from the Turlock Irrigation District, 10% from Modesto Irrigation District, but roughly 80% come outside of any of the contributing sponsor areas. So with the feedback from the districts, the border control, the staff, the customer survey, we then built the recommendations, and here's the goals that we came up with. In our last focus group, the last workshop we did with the border control, there was a lot more detail provided, but this is really the strategic goals that we want to look at. One of them is maintain the modern facilities, bring up the current facilities to standards. Today everybody's going to 50 amp, like I mentioned. Strengthening the team. We have primarily been a seasonal staff organization, and we want to look at trying to strengthen that team a little bit more, seeing what we can do, whether that be through development or creating new positions, trying to figure out a way that we can retain and recruit new staff as well. Constantly engaging customers. This is primarily due to getting that customer voice. As Director Gilman knows, we go to border control meetings and we don't have very much customer input. So by looking at surveys and other ways of reaching our customers, we're hoping to continue that strategic goal. And then drive transparency. That has a lot to do with the visibility of the border control, meeting more frequently, having the board members meet more frequently. For those that don't know, we only have 3 board members, so it's very difficult for anybody to meet because that would create a quorum and we can't have that. So just more board interaction. So that was a strategic plan update. This is really some of the things that we've brought new to 2022 and some highlights for us here. So as you can see, the Fleming Point Hiking Trail in 2022, right around the first week of May this year, we opened up a new Vista Trail. It goes out to a day use area. And we also opened up the wilderness area that's roughly 800 acres, and it allows for dispersed camping, more trails. We're currently developing that area to try and preserve some of that natural landscape, but also allow for more recreation outdoors. And then we became dog friendly. That was a big deal. We heard from our customers. We also researched some studies and found that over 80% of campgrounds in California are dog friendly, and we weren't at the time. And then we also found that 30% of people who camp in California bring their dogs camping with them. So we wanted to try and encourage new visitors. I do have a video here that I'll play. It's a short clip. So this is our trail here. You can see that it's dog friendly. This was actually a TikTok created by the Visit Tuolumne County, which is Tuolumne County's Visitor Bureau. We also, on this tour, we had the Visit Oakdale representative there, and then they also shared this information with Stanislaus County Visitor Bureau and then the Turlock Chamber. You can see in that last picture there, that was part of the end of the trail where there's about 270-degree views of Don Pedro Reservoir. Another item right now that most are familiar with is the Don Pedro Recreation Agency Visitor Center. Back in 2016, our visitor center did burn down, and we went through a long insurance process, but we're getting close to rebuilding, but there is more work to be done. Our last workshop was held on August 19th. It was with the architects and designers, and They provided some information we were not expecting, but the price per square foot to build a new building at that time was $1,200 to $1,600 per square foot. So with the Border Control direction, and I believe Director Blom was also there for that meeting, as well as some other representatives from CCSF and TID, we received the direction to look in alternatives. So whether that be prefab or just any type of construction materials that we could look at building a lower cost facility. And then as part of that, we were looking into more revenue generation to try and offset some of our expenses on O&M. And so with that, there's discussion about an event center being built too. But that's all I have for an update today. But I'm happy to answer any questions that the board or the public may have.
Do any board members have questions for Ryan?
I don't have a question, but a comment. I just want to let everybody know that Ryan has been a remarkable hire for DPRA. I get to work with him every week. We talk on Tuesdays most of the time, plus board meetings and all. He's a visionary, somebody who has, big plans, big ideas for what could happen out at Don Pedro. And I just want to publicly say here how much I appreciate you and look forward to working with you some more, subject to events in the near future. So thank you very much, Ryan.
Thank you.
Do any members of the public have any comments or questions? Anybody in the internet? Well, Ryan, thank you very much. That was a good report. Appreciate it.
Thank you, directors.
Okay, Paul or Stu, announcements by directors. So I have an announcement in my role as a director. So MID board policy GP7 requires that the board and its members should act in an ethical, businesslike, productive, and lawful manner. Board members should avoid even the appearance of impropriety to ensure and maintain public confidence in MID. So that's a quotation from our board policy. Director Byrd made the following statement in a campaign flyer for a candidate who is running for the MID Board of Directors. Gilman brags about MID not increasing electrical rates. The truth is that only a lawsuit challenging MID electrical rates has kept MID from raising rates. So that's Director Byrd's comments on this flyer. To be clear, my comment is not directed toward a candidate or a campaign, but instead about how Director Byrd's comment could reflect on the district. In my opinion, this statement from Director Byrd is untruthful and a violation of board policy GP7. MID has not had to raise electrical rates since 2012 because revenue was sufficient to cover expenses, reduce the outstanding pension and retiree healthcare liability, as well as reduce outstanding debt. There's been no need or desire by any MID board member to consider raising electrical rates for the several past years. And if anyone, printed copies of this statement are available from Board Secretary Angela Cardasano. So we have we have a general manager update.
Director Menzinger,
Yeah.
we have a hand raised.
Okay, whose hand is it?
It's Robert Frobos.
Okay,
Okay.
so is it appropriate to allow Mr. Frobos to comment? Okay, let's allow Mr. Frobos to comment.
I think it's unfair for you to quote another director that's not there today. And I would like you to show the public the document that you're using to quote Director Byrd's statement from.
Okay, so I have the copy as a text message. I don't know how to share that with you, but it's something that I would be happy to share with our board secretary so she could share it with you.
Okay. That would be my concern, is you're quoting something and it doesn't appear to be an official quote. You're just assuming that it's an official quote, not, you don't have any actual proof that Director Byrd actually said that.
So I first of all want to agree with you that I would have preferred Director Byrd and Director Blum to be at this meeting, and I regret that they're not at this meeting. And the document is a campaign flyer, and it features Director Byrd's name and the fact that he is a MID director on it, which is why I felt obliged to comment. I may not have commented if he had not affiliated himself with the MID, but he did. And so this is in writing. I guess you are correct, Mr. Frobos, that it's theoretically possible that these remarks were attributed to Director Byrd without his agreement. And if that happens to turn out to be the case, I will be the first to profusely apologize.
Well, if you're going to say that if that's true, it's interesting that you point that out now that you say that it's a campaign flyer and you want to take up board time to point out something that he may or may not said. Why don't you share all the other comments that are also on that flyer?
Actually, that would be inappropriate. And I've actually, before taking this action, I had extensive discussions with our general counsel, and he was obviously his job is to keep me and the agency out of trouble. And so I listened very carefully to his recommendations. And again, this is in black and white. It's in a document that's been distributed to thousands of people in Modesto. So I think it is extremely unlikely that it was done without Director Byrd's agreement, but I have to admit it is a theoretical possibility.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other comments?
No other hands are raised.
Okay, so go ahead, Ed. Yes, Mr. Drake. Yes.
Emerson Drake again. You know, it's always interesting when we bring in campaign speech and flyers, and your animus towards Director Byrd has been known for quite some time. Everybody knows it. You've decided to take a personal attack in order to support Mr. Gilman. You know, he promised the people of House Modesto. He said, I'm going to get you your money back. That's what he promised. He said, I'm going to get you a rebate. And the very first thing he did was to come here and sign on to fight the lawsuit that pretends that the electrical side isn't paying the bills. His whole campaign statement has been a lie. Everything he said has been a lie. So when you want to take somebody else to task in your official position for making a statement on top of what they said, I'm sorry. I think you're the one abusing your authority. Do you have the right shirt? Is it right? No. No more right to him pretending. You know, he passes himself off as an honorific. They like to call him Pastor Stu. But he lied to those congregants. He turned around and got them to vote for him and never once intended on following through. There is no doubt. Did he ever bring up giving a rebate back to the people that are overpaying? You know, the average resident is probably being overcharged by approximately 20%, but nobody cares. I was referring to that earlier in a way, because we subsidize the people at Gallo. We subsidize the farmers. You can pick your choice. The electrical side that we subsidize is much more expensive than the farmers. But some people like to focus on the farmers instead. But Stu promised those people, I'm going to get you money, like Huey Long. It's what he reminded me of at the time. A chicken in every pot. I'm going to get you your money. But never once did he stand there once he was elected and say a word. Not once in 5 years. The only thing that he's managed to do is get himself lifelong insurance. You know, you guys passed the rule a few years back. It was actually appointed another board member. And it was, if you can't get lifelong insurance after 4 years, you made it after 5. Because Mike Serpa wasn't elected after 5. The same person that helped get him elected was Zan Bush, George Petrolakis. I think that's, you know, that's like talking about your former lawyer. You just clear your throat and spit when you say his name. He doesn't care. He floated Mr. Gilman a loan of $10,000 for almost 4 years, 3 years plus, before he finally got around to paying some of it back. You know, don't pretend that you're being looking out for MID's concerns, because no offense, I don't believe you are. You're not even close to it. None of the three of you represent the people that you've been elected to represent. You represent people behind the scenes, the special interest groups that want to maintain their profitability. I'm glad Gallo provides jobs, but that doesn't mean that people that don't work for Gallo have to turn around and pay for their electric bill, but you require us to do that. That's irrefutable. Again, it goes back to 2016. You guys subsidize industry higher than any other electric company in the central, not the Central Valley, Central California. Even SMUD can't come close to it. PG&E doesn't come close to it. But we, the people, are paying for your hubris. And it really needs to stop. And to go after Director Byrd for allegedly calling, because I haven't seen him say it in person, but Mr. Gilman's campaign flyers, he says he's responsible for the content, unless he wants to say something different now. No, I'm sorry. I think you're just taking a shot. Feel free. You know, Tom Van Groningen, the only thing people remember about him is a couple of weeks ago, he did what I call a living obituary. He turned around and stated all his life's accomplishments and paid to have it put in the paper so he could get acknowledged for it before he passes away. But like Glenn Weil before Mr. Gilman, all we see are lies, misstatements, and mistruths. Thank you very much for your time.
So, Mr. Drake, I only want to comment on one factual matter that you brought up, and I will encourage Irma, the Human Resources Director, to correct me if I'm wrong, but none of the elected directors at the table now have any right to MID health insurance after we leave office.
I'll take it back. I just remember the Mike Serpa rule, and I could find that apparently something's changed, because they actually passed it, and you're aware of it then. That at the time they made it so you had to be here 5 years before you could get the lengthy hospitalization or the medical insurance.
Yeah, so my understanding, just for your information, of the current medical insurance is that once you retire from MID, if you're over 65, you're expected to sign up for Medicare and you don't get any retiree health care benefits. Is that
Well,
fair, Irma?
you can borrow mine. Oh, you want to use yours? Okay.
So benefits are distinguished by tiers and also as to whether or not you are an employee participant or a director participant. So here the matter at hand are directors. And so directors presently, whether or not they have vested, which is what Mr. Drake is indicating, are not covered without cost. So typically it would be, if they're eligible to participate, it would be at director cost or not at all. So it is not free coverage.
Is there any coverage?
For tier 3 participants?
Is there no MID director from the past that's getting it? It's going to be the basic question in the long run.
From the past?
That's not currently serving. That's my point.
Well, that might be a little too broad and unfair in this circumstance.
No,
So
no.
I'm just saying if staff, I'll defer to the board and to general manager, but I think this was a public comment period, not a Q&A, but to the extent the others want to do so, that's
He
fine.
brought it up.
Well, no, I just wanted to assure you that the currently served, the people on the board now, Paul Campbell, myself, and Stu Gilman, are covered in this tier 3. And tier 3 does not give you any retiree healthcare benefits if you're over 65. And even if you're under 65, you would have to have a certain number of years of service to qualify, wouldn't you? And I don't believe any of us, how many years would it be?
Okay, so with regard to tier 3 participants at large, there is no coverage beyond 65. And I would just clarify that there are a lot of qualifiers there. So that is the case. With regard to directors under age 65, to the extent that they're able to participate as tier 3 participants, it is exclusively at their cost in order to continue on group health plans. And so there is no district sponsored no-cost health coverage to any Tier 3 director.
Thank you.
My only question, I don't know what a tier 3 director is. I'll ask the question. I'll restate it. Then.
Post 2000, so 2013 forward.
That's what I thought.
Okay, very good.
State made the law, not MID, okay?
Well, the state made the law with respect to defined benefit plans, like our basic retirement plan, not with respect to retiree medical benefits.
So no past director is currently getting insurance from MID.
We can't say that, but at least I just want to assure you that I'm not going to receive any, nor is Director Gilman, nor is Director Campbell.
So you basically, you brought me up and I concede I was wrong. I'll take that. But when you give me this little caveat that you don't want to respond to, it leaves openings and concerns.
I'm just not an expert in art. I leave it to our human
Is
resources.
anyone?
Well, to actually go back and try to figure out, we have 400 plus employees and
Talk about
retirees.
directors, sir.
I understand, but it's unfair to ask staff to be a walking database as to who's getting benefits and who's not.
Perhaps you can do it. You can, if you wish, you can submit a PRA and get an answer.
CPREs, particularly how you say it. So I'm not going to get a response. Okay, as long as we leave it that way, that's fine. So I'll know.
Thank you, Mr. Drake. Okay, do we have any other comments? Okay, so Ed, do your general manager update, please.
Well, I actually have no updates to share today. So thank you.
So we have future board meetings on November 8th and November 15th. And so anyway, thank you all for coming. We are now going to reconvene in the closed session. And we'll take a 5-minute break. So we are reconvening into open session from closed session. We have nothing, no announcements to report from closed session. This meeting is adjourned.